As with any maritime nation, the Concord learns most of its foreign knowledge from across the waters. The rumours of sailors, the manifests of cargo, and the flags that hang over ports. The knowledge is a constant flow, but it often takes time to gather itself into some form of cohesive picture. An image the great and powerful of the Concord will do well to consider before making rash action. News arrives from across all the oceans, each with its own tenor and danger. In the west there is silent imperial dominance as the Ardebezani continue their control, but there are whispers of distant independence. In the east there is conflict on the open sea, corsairs raiding the nations of Drummond, Dendar and Hookah. In the south there is mysterious and dark waters. Contained within are those rumours, as well as the results of some action taken by Concordian captains abroad where it is publicly known. The surest guarantee of peace. News from the west. Across the great trade seas is the lands of Ardebezan or of ruin. Were one to sail northwest from Estera with good wind and fair luck, you may reach Patavium, the great naval city of Ardebezan upon the homeland of Invicta Minor, or perhaps you may reach the great arc of Invicta Major, where the Ardebezani Empire does war with Zencante. Upon the waves of the great trade sea, you will see little non-Ardebezani trade this past season. The empire is great enough that the constant shuttle of galleys and warships bearing imperial colours, or those of the far-flung outposts, are more than enough to equal or exceed all the seaborne traffic of Estera. But gone are the ships from distant Drummond or the lands to the east. But also gone are the great risks of corsairs, aside from some strangeness in the most distant ports such as Tabadar far in the south. There is little danger upon the great trade sea. Concordian ships are seldom welcome in these waters, with Ardebezani ports still close to them, being rebels and traitors. But those independent ports and rumours still flow. Word has it that the Emperor Urso has celebrated his 21st birthday in the city of Dunventor, where he received the homage of the king of the Vokashan people. Together, the Emperor's legions and the Vokashan war host have turned back the Zencante army that has threatened the city and surrounding countryside. The third victory against the Zun in as many months for the young Emperor. Whether this will join the other two Imperial fleets in the north supporting the war against Zan, travel west past the Cape of Tabadar to support interests there, or turn its gaze towards Estera remains unknown. Concordian ships eager to find some sort of advantage in this relative peace may be tempted to look beyond the Basilisk Gate, to the estuarine city of Bohak in Zatirizan. The Adanji remain, as ever, ornery and violent. The return of the Adanji fleet from Aprivano to Bohak makes it only more dangerous. Game information. Ardebezani ports remain closed to Concordian ships and cannot be traded with. While Concordian ships have not been attacked by Ardebezani imperial vessels in the Great Trade Sea, it does not take much to imagine that happening. The Adanji Shahak in the north and western parts of Estera have nearly no diplomatic ties to the Concord, there only being the vestigial through the Concordian embassy in Aprivano, where the Adanji fleet, until recently, has been assisting the trade prince Majid. Concordian ships are welcome to try to travel to Bohak, but it is a shallow, muddy grave unless you know something others don't. If you are interested in the Adanji Shahak, speaking to the ambassador to Aprivano will be the most informed point of contact. 3 coins into the sea. News from the east. The Explorer's Sea is alight with flame and hunger. 2 fleets, hundreds of ships strong, flying the golden banner of Ophelia Diablos, have laid waste to port cities, trading vessels and flotillas on either side of the Eastern Sea, leaving hundreds dead and drowned in their wake. The vast raiding, unprecedented in the east, comes as a surprise to the coastal kingdoms of the Dendari, Hukari and Drummond, although damage is not visited fairly or equally. Rumour has it that the Kaludos of Atanax in Hakar paid the Storm Queen a ransom of a ship's hold's worth of Bithril and 1,000 slaves to cease raiding their vessels in their southern countryside. While the ultimate value may be inflated through the scuttlebutt of sailors, it is likely that some sort of deal has taken place. The Dendari have had more luck, with the fleet of Chimeros defending the deepwater port fiercely against a force led by Captain Lukos Axe, Lokargos of Letters. In the battle that followed, the Marines of Chimeros burned a dozen Golden Fleet ships and forced them back from the Dendari port for the remainder of the year. But while the skilled Marines were able to secure their home, they were effectively besieged. Very few Dendari ships have left port since, and trade has been understandably stifled. The Drummondites are most aggrieved. A great raid led by the Storm Queen herself saw a failed attempt to steal the fleet of House Rayleigh from Crown Sport. While the action failed, most of the fleet burned at anchor, while the Corsairs made off with booty and plunder from the largest port in Hildeblanc. Rumour has it that the damage of the raid has been extensive, seeing the fortunes of Duke Adnar Rayleigh fall greatly. Duke Alswyn Rotmore, Duke of the Manacles, appears poised to take the position of Prime Marine, Duke of the Realm, as much as that is a title of worth, from the north, although it remains to be seen if Manacle Harbour can replace a wounded Crown Sport as the primary port of the fealties. Since the raid, Drummond has been able to protect its coastline enough to let simple trade continue along its sandy beaches, but no Drummondite ship is crossing the Explorer's Sea until something changes. The only vessels that have had success traversing the sea are those flying Concordian colours. The Treaty of the Corsairs and the Treaty of the Bay, signed by the Concord and Ophelia Diablos some years ago, protect Concordian ships from predation by the Golden Fleet, enabling Concordian captains to flee those violent seas ahead of considerable bloodletting. While the Corsairs have been true to their word and no Concordian ships have been broken, it is unlikely that they will return to the Explorer's Sea soon, as the ports of Drummond and Dendar are sealed tight against all corners. Hidden among this tale of woe and wrath is a smaller tale, albeit no less worrying. Before the battle outside Camaros could take place, a Concordian ship flying the colours of the valley made dock. An honest trading vessel, the Sweet Valley, had two tasks: trade in Iron Valley handicrafts, ore and raw resources, and deliver the Concordian ambassador Eardwulf to a series of important meetings with Queen Thestori of Camaros and others. While the Sweet Valley and its captain, Willow, did good trade, Ambassador Eardwulf has not been seen again. The attack on Camaros forced the ship to begin the long journey home with its hold overflowing the trade goods, but without the ambassador, of which nothing has been heard, despite the dedicated efforts of the crew to locate him before they departed. Game information. The violent presence of the Golden Fleet in the Explorer's Sea has not directly damaged the fortunes of Concordian captains, but has knock-on effects of the Concord. Both Camaros and Crown Sport are closed to Concordian ships this coming season, not because they are particularly barring Concordian ships, but because they are barring all ships in pursuit of safety. Conversely, the Hakarit port of Athanax remains open through its willingness to pay a Golden Fleet ransom. Concordian ships that traded with Camaros, Crown Sport and Athanax will find that they have produced as if they were one tier higher this past season, as the threat of the Golden Fleet made prices particularly amenable. The players of Willow and Eardwulf will receive additional briefs in their player packs regarding their experiences in Camaros. The Concord enjoys protection from the Golden Fleet, but has a strained relationship. Without an embassy to the Corsairs of the Guardian, it is difficult to learn or accomplish much. Characters interested in putting pressure on this issue in one way or another should speak to their senators, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, or other ambassadors. There will be additional information and decisions in regards to the conflict in the east for the ambassador of the Dendar nations. Unfathomable depths. News from the south. To the south is cold and silent. For years, the Ice-Reach Sea has been the home of the Ilsphere, the hunting ground of the drowned and the death of great and poor captains alike. Those few successful crews who eked out a living trading with the scattered Idrian Cabal settlements such as Rackham's Port were hardly seeing the heroic mariners that perhaps surviving the sea was owed to them. But now there is change, not swift and sudden like the storm, but slow and heavy like a berg. The Ice Reach is as dark as ever, its hidden depths obscuring beasts of bone, tentacle and gluttony, but the surface is broken with a different wake. As in the east, so in the south, Corsairs rule here over summer. Concordian captains who have braved the ice floes speak of a new port that grasps a great stone mountain top that breaks the waves. Perched like a bird of prey grasping a treetop in a fierce gale, the port is surrounded by a great flotilla, nearly 100 ships lashed together in a rolling settlement of decks and forecastles. Suspended above all of this is a simple banner, a black kraken speared through on a pale blue backing, the sigil of the Ice Lords. Once members of the Golden Fleet, the Ice Lords appear to have broken ties with their companions, judging by their willingness to pursue ships flying Concordian colours. Despite their naval power and their new home amidst the bergs, it is clear that these corsairs have other pursuits, or else there would be far more hungry ships prowling the waves for Concordian merchants in these South Seas. These merchants have begun to call this port Mount Kraken. Beyond this new danger, there is further strangeness in the ice reach. Sailors report strange new colours playing out in the aurora that plays out across the night sky over the land of the Idrian Cabal. Flashes of light and sparks of thunder, but the ports remain open as ever, eager for Concordian traders. Game information. The rise of the Ice Lords has made the ice reach an even more dangerous sea to traverse, but not so impossible that trade with the Idrian Cabal is closed. Concordian ships have a greater chance of being damaged when making this journey, but the rewards are also higher, provided the route remains unpopular. The Concord lacks an embassy to both the Idrian Cabal and the Ice Lords, although there may be other methods of contact for both. The Concord's dealings with the Idrian Cabal will be heavily dependent on a number of choices this season in regards to their laboratory in Morkarem, which is outlined in The Reflections of My Enemies. 2 Concordian fleets would be of sufficient strength to raid Mount Kraken. While they would encounter losses, they would gain the treasury of the Ice Lords, the stolen knowledge of the Ice Reach, and would see this danger lessened in the Ice Reach for seasons to come. However, these fleets would need skilled navigators and scouting ships. Without 20 naval investment tiers taking the support the fleet action, this task would be far more dangerous and may incur more casualties. This is if the Concord wishes to make enemies of the Ice Lords in the pursuit of plunder and knowledge. An empire has no friends or enemies, only interests. While the danger of the Onyx aristocracy can seem all-consuming, Chimeras can feel a world away and Artabazan a planet beyond our own. The world the Concord finds itself within is even larger still. There are a great many nations across the waves, and even more hiding among the nooks of the world within our own sight. As the Corsairs of Andash, the Free Captains of Laronamer, and the Jarls of the Valley grow in strength, there is a combined desire to see the world explored better. Doing so would surely increase our shared knowledge and opportunities in the world, but would hardly be cheap or easy. But where there is a will, there is a set of treasury. The Concord can send a flotilla east to map out the western coast of Hildeblanc, returning with a greater understanding of the lands of Drummond and her neighbours. They could seek out rumours of the Astranan citadels that look over the straits that separate Hildeblanc from Invicta Major, of the Norini, a warlike people that raid the southern borders of the fealties or more. Doing so would be expensive, a price of at least 10 volts, but it would require more in terms of vessels, as the western coast of Hildeblanc is a vast land that would need a great many hands to map it. A greater danger, but perhaps a greater interest, is northwards. The Concord could attempt to reach the southern coast of Invicta Major, meeting with the simple Ithin Ushkamandi, seeking out the mighty Zancante, or spying the imperious might of the Artabazani holdings on the warfront. A truly alien land, Invicta Major would offer secrets of magic, man, and malice, but doing so would be far more expensive in coin than in power. Any Concordian flotilla would need to band together rather than spread apart, and the real cost would be in supplies and armament rather than sails. Finally, the Concord could complete a madman's quest, an insanity, one that would require faith and long-term investment. The Concord could attempt to map Estera, a circumnavigation of the continent, peering into its every bay and cliffside, returning with an understanding of our home better than ever held before. Doing so would require investment now, preparing for a departure in the summer when conditions are better, but would be more expensive in both manpower and cost than travelling north or east. Of course, perhaps these are all flights of fancy, impossibilities against the weight of Concordian bureaucracy, but maybe, just maybe, the Concord can find itself across that next horizon. Game information. At a cost of 10 volts and requiring 15 naval investment tiers taking the special action Explore Hildeblanc, the Concord could gain sufficient knowledge of the continent to the east, including maps of the coast, wealth, and contact with the peoples there. This would be provided to both the Senate through foreign service members aboard these vessels, and to the captains who would undertake this journey. At a cost of 20 volts and requiring 10 naval investment tiers taking the special action Explore Invicta Major, the Concord could gain significant knowledge of the continent to its north, including maps of the coast, military information, and contact with its peoples there. This would be provided to both the Senate through Foreign Service members aboard these vessels, and to the captains who had undertaken this journey. The Senate could also invest in preparing to map Esterra. Doing so would cost 10 volts now and would require further work in the summer. Doing so would organise a flotilla of ships to attempt to map the entire continent, providing maps and contact with the peoples across the whole continent. Given the greater attention to detail, these maps would be of higher quality than those produced by either Hildeblanc or Invicta Major, but would take longer to produce. More information in regards to each of these journeys will be provided to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And that concludes my reading of The Wave Breaks as the Heart Does. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.